Have you ever asked Kelvin where all this money comes from? Not directly. Why? Are you worried? Why should I? Money is money.
Allow me. Thank you so much for coming. The pleasure is all mine.
Isn't this just perfect, Kelvin? Absolutely, darling. I could get used to this. Then let's make sure you do.
Open the gate, Kelvin! We know you're in there! Pay your debts now, Kay Davis! This is your last chance! Repay your debts! Repay your debts! Open the gate!
When people saw Yaa Asantewaa walking across the university campus, they often whispered that she was the luckiest young woman alive. She dressed in expensive designer outfits, carried the newest phones, and stepped out of luxury cars that made heads turn. Her boyfriend, Kelvin, seemed to have everything money could buy. He owned several businesses, drove different exotic cars every week, and lived in a magnificent mansion in the most prestigious neighborhood of the city. After a few months of dating, Yaa Asantewaa abandoned her school hostel and moved into Kelvin's luxurious home. To her, it felt like a dream. They traveled abroad during holidays, stayed in five-star hotels, and flooded social media with glamorous pictures. Many students secretly wished they could live the kind of life Yaa Asantewaa enjoyed. Only one person refused to admire it: her closest friend, Adoma. Adoma had known Yaa Asantewaa since their first year at the university. One afternoon, while they sat under a tree after lectures, Adoma looked at her seriously. "Have you ever asked Kelvin where all this money comes from?" she asked quietly. Yaa Asantewaa laughed. "Why should I? Money is money." Adoma shook her head. "Because just a year ago, he was struggling like every other student. Nobody becomes this rich overnight without a reason." Instead of thinking about her friend's warning, Yaa Asantewaa became offended. "So you're jealous now?" Adoma sighed. "I'm only trying to protect you." From that day, their friendship slowly died. What Adoma didn't know was that Yaa Asantewaa already suspected the truth. Deep inside, she believed Kelvin's wealth came from illegal online scams, but she convinced herself it wasn't her problem. As long as she enjoyed the comfort, expensive gifts, and luxurious lifestyle, she chose not to ask questions. Her priorities changed completely. Instead of focusing on lectures, Yaa Asantewaa spent most of her time shopping, attending parties, and traveling with Kelvin. During examinations, she secretly paid brilliant students to sit some of her papers while she relaxed at home, believing money could solve every problem. For months, everything seemed perfect. Then, without warning, Kelvin's empire began to collapse. Creditors stormed his house almost every week, demanding repayment of huge debts. His expensive vehicles disappeared one after the other as he sold them to survive. Properties were auctioned off, and every business he invested in failed miserably. Within a few months, the millionaire lifestyle vanished. The mansion was gone, the luxury cars were gone, the expensive vacations ended. Soon, they moved into a modest two-bedroom apartment in a crowded neighborhood. Kelvin became restless. He barely slept. He spent hours making mysterious calls before disappearing for days. One evening, he returned looking unusually hopeful. "There may be a way to become rich again," he said. Yaa Asantewaa's eyes lit up immediately. "What do we have to do?" Kelvin hesitated before explaining that he had visited a traditional spiritual practitioner in a distant village. According to him, there was a ritual that could restore lost wealth. "But," he continued, lowering his voice, "the ritual requires some personal belongings from a woman, especially intimate clothing." Yaa Asantewaa stared at him for several seconds. Surprisingly, she did not panic. Instead, she smiled. "If this will bring our life back, then let's do it." Kelvin looked shocked by how quickly she agreed. "Are you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" Yaa Asantewaa replied confidently. "People say many things about rituals, but once you are rich again, none of that will matter." Without another question, she handed over everything he requested. A few days later, the ritual was performed. 3 weeks passed. Suddenly, Kelvin's fortunes changed once again. Business opportunities appeared from nowhere. Money flowed into his accounts. He rented another beautiful house, bought a luxury SUV, and returned to the lavish lifestyle they once enjoyed. Yaa Asantewaa believed their nightmare was over. She couldn't have been more wrong. It started with a simple complaint. "You don't smell nice," Kelvin told her one morning. Yaa Asantewaa laughed. She had just finished bathing and was wearing one of the world's most expensive perfumes. "You must be joking." "I'm serious." She ignored him. But the complaints continued every day. Soon, strangers also reacted strangely whenever she walked by. Passengers avoided sitting beside her, people in supermarkets quietly moved away, classmates covered their noses during lectures. At church, someone even abandoned the seat next to hers. Yaa Asantewaa was confused. She could not smell anything unusual. Desperately, she bought stronger perfumes, medicated soaps, body scrubs, and expensive creams. She bathed repeatedly until her skin became sore. Nothing changed. Instead, the mysterious odor became stronger, but only other people could perceive it. Kelvin eventually stopped sharing the same bedroom with her. Whenever she entered a room, he immediately opened the windows. The woman he once proudly showed off now filled him with disgust. One rainy evening, after another argument, Kelvin dragged her suitcase into the living room. "You can't stay here anymore," he said coldly. Yaa Asantewaa froze. "What are you saying? I've tried everything. I can't live like this." She burst into tears and begged him not to abandon her. She reminded him of everything they had shared together. She reminded him that she had sacrificed for him. Kelvin's expression never changed. He opened the front door, pushed her suitcase outside, and pointed toward the gate. "Leave." With trembling hands and tear-filled eyes, Yaa Asantewaa stepped into the dark street, carrying what remained of her belongings. She knocked on the doors of friends who once celebrated her luxurious lifestyle. Every door closed in her face. Some people welcomed her with smiles that instantly disappeared the moment they came close enough to notice the terrible odor. Others covered their noses and begged her to leave before neighbors complained. Humiliated and exhausted, Yaa Asantewaa wandered from one cheap hotel to another until even the hotel owners refused to keep her. At last, only one person remained in her thoughts: Adoma, the same friend she had insulted, the same friend she had abandoned. Standing outside Adoma's apartment with swollen eyes and shaking hands, Yaa Asantewaa whispered a silent prayer before knocking gently on the door. She had no idea whether forgiveness was still possible.